call the court to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please turn their cell phones off or turn them on silent. We have several important topics, and we're going to try to move through this as expeditiously as possible. William, would you like to come up and lead us in the invocation, please?
Let us pray. Father God, we come to you this evening, Lord, seeking your guidance and your wisdom for the decisions to be made here tonight, Lord. We pray that all the decisions be made for the betterment of this county and for the citizens therein. We just pray your guidance, and we ask it all in the sweet name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Blackburn.
Here.
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. I'd like to ask Mr. Doug Tackett, who is our retired Emergency Management Director and was the first, maybe the first Emergency Management Director and the first 911 Coordinator in the county's history, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the January 6 and the January 17, 2023 meetings of the Pike County Fiscal Court. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The next item is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the filing of a Kentucky House Bill 1. This is for the County Clerk's Election Equipment Grant Application, an amount up to $170,000 pursuant to House Bill 1. And this is through the Department of Local Government, and authorizing and directing the county judge executive to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by DLG to carry out this project, and authorizing the judge to act as the authorized correspondent for the project. This is for the e-poll books. We have Pike County Clerk Darrell Pugh here. Darrell, you want to come up, or you can go to the podium, either one, and just explain what the purpose of this is. And
okay, the previous poll pads or poll books, what they were called, have been recalled. The state took those back, and they're going to fund these at 100%. These poll pads are used to identify the voters. You take their driver's license, check their where they live, make sure they're voting in the right place, and you give them the appropriate ballot. Like I said, the cost is $1,700. That's the maximum amount that the county fiscal courts will be refunded or reimbursed by the State Board of Elections with a DLG grant. That's about it. If any of the particulars, Mr. Fannin, I think, has been in contact with them, but we have to have them.
We have to have them. As I understand it, the purpose of the e-poll book would be if somebody from Virgie was in Phelps and decided to vote, the e-poll book would basically connect to the other e-poll book, so that way somebody couldn't go to one precinct and vote and then go to another precinct and vote again, correct?
That's correct. The actual voting machines are not connected to the internet anyway, but the e-poll books are. So yeah, once you've signed in as a voter, that's it. You can't vote anywhere else.
And that way, no matter where you vote in the county, if you vote at a polling center, obviously you could go to any polling center. They could pull your name up on the e-poll book rather than having to have the old precinct books for each precinct. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just like with the early voting, you know, we're going to have 3 days early voting, probably here in this courtroom. I believe it's the 11th, 12th, 13th. It's the Friday, Saturday.
This is something we have to do. We did find out that even though the state will reimburse us up to $1,700 per poll book, the county is going to be on the hook for the maintenance and going forward. So it is another expense that the legislature has passed down to the counties, another unfunded mandate. And something we need to talk to our legislative delegation about. If they give us the money to pay for these, they need to give us the money to take care of them, maintain them, and so forth.
About
Because
like giving somebody a car with no gas, no insurance.
no gas, no insurance, and no money for tires. So, all right. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as stated for the grant application for up to $170,000 from the Department of Local Government pursuant to House Bill 1 and permission for the judge executive to execute documents deemed necessary by DOG to carry out the project, and authorizing the judge executive to act as the authorized correspondent for the project?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blackburn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yeah.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Something else I might add, I think that this Snow Inc. is going to use us maybe on May 8th to demonstrate these poll books for the surrounding counties that's also used them. So, we'll have more people here and have a better feel for how they actually work.
We appreciate the help
Thank
and look forward to working with you on this.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
attention to this, getting it done. Next item is the approval of a contract between Pike County Fiscal Court and DMB Repair for delivery and setup of voting machines and related equipment and authorization for payment. Darryl, you want to talk about this? Are you familiar with this? This is the contract between the county and DMB Repair for delivery and setup of the voting machines and related equipment and authorization for payment.
Dawn Bibbins.
Dawn Bibbins.
This is the upcoming election.
We've not addressed that in the Board of Elections, I think that we're going to use him. He's been attending it, but we've not discussed it.
Do we need to pass over this? Is there a reason this is? I don't think we need to do anything on this until we know what the Board of Elections wants to do.
Yeah, we actually had a meeting earlier, and we did discuss one change that we're going to make is, we're still going to have vote centers, but last election, we bought 102,000 ballots, and then we printed more, and we only had 16,000 people, so we got like 90-some thousand ballots that we bought at 30 cents a piece. So what we're planning on is still having vote centers. All the schools, we're lucky enough that Reed Atkins and the Pike County School Board is willing to work with us. If it's a school, it's a vote center. You can vote at any school, no matter where you live. But if you live in District 3, you're going to be able to vote in District 3, but you can't jump over in 2 and vote unless it's at a vote center. This will probably save us at least $20,000 in printed ballots. And that's not one election, that's May and fall. So
I
just
agree
think-
with you. It doesn't make sense to have that kind of printing cost every election
With no end in sight.
with no end in sight with that much waste. I think it's something that would be
Something that I've also been talking to Harp about is, we've got a fairly expensive agreement with them that if we end up with some more machines, that they'll add that to it possibly. And then we've got some ADA machines that they will convert to the print-on-demand machines for about $2,000. We've got 47 of them. We really just take one per precinct. We're going to have 28 precincts and early voting and absentee, so.
What happens if you have one of these printers go down, though? That was a big concern is.
Well, we plan on having a couple at the vote centers that are, maybe one in Belfry, Shelby Valley, and Pike Central that we can run it to someplace if we had to, but they've only been taking one to them anyway. You have to have one per precinct.
Has the county attorney's office looked at this contract? Okay. Well, if the county attorney's office has not looked at it and the Board of Elections hasn't done anything on it, then we probably need to pass over this.
Okay.
All right, thank you all. The next item is a resolution authorizing Roy Sawyer's District Manager of Mountain Water District to sign all project pay request invoices for the Maynard Fork Water Line Extension and to present these invoices for payment to the fiscal court. Sharon, would you like to explain this briefly?
This is our ARC project for the water line at Maynard Fork. We got a notice to bid the project yesterday, but once we start getting invoices, Roy will have to authorize those. Then we authorize them because the project's in our name and not in Mountain Water's name.
And who pays the bill on that one?
We pay the bill and I get the reimbursement from ARC
Okay, so we have to front the money and then they reimburse us on
because
it.
it's in our name. But still, he has to approve them.
All right, is there a motion? This is in Commissioner Scott's district. This is the Maynard Fork Water Line Extension Project. And again, it will be a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing Roy Sawyer's Mountain Water District to send all project pay request invoices for the Maynard Fork Water Line Extension Project and to present these invoices for payment to the fiscal court, and then the fiscal court would seek reimbursement. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item is adoption of resolution implementing the alternative appointment process detailed within KRS 173.730. The administrative code has already been changed to allow for the alternative appointment process for the library district. I'm not sure that this is necessary, but the statute does use the language resolution. And as some of you know, there has been a lot of questionable spending practices by the library district. They're sitting on several $1 million in the bank. They built that big library down across from Burger King. And I think it's important that currently the library basically handpicks 2 names to send to the state librarian, and they send the judge those names, and the judge has to pick from a list that basically the library hand selects for them. And Senator Wheeler was very courageous and pushed legislation that will give the taxpayers and the fiscal courts some oversight. I've always felt that our libraries are important, but I've also felt that there needs to be some accountability because right now, essentially, these boards pick their own members. And just to make sure we're on the same page as the statute, I would move to adopt this resolution that we approve the alternative appointment process by resolution. Again, we've already put this in the administrative code. I think that has the same weight of law, but I want to make sure that we use the same language that's in the statute. You all have any questions about that process? Because that way we could decide as a fiscal court, I would nominate somebody and you all would have the ability to vote for them, yes or no. Right now, the only people that we get to choose from are ones that they tell us in Frankfurt that we can pick. So I think that if the taxpayers are going to support the library system, that it needs to be the local elected officials that have control over who goes on the boards.
That sounds to me like a good idea.
Well, I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Atkins. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Blackburn.
Yeah.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Please resend that letter advising them that I'm not going to be accepting the appointments and to send us 2 additional names for appointment. And I'm going to go ahead and sign this resolution, so we'll have this to the clerk, and she can sign it tonight. Madam Clerk, there you go. All right. Next, we have approval of the bid for the Wolf Pit Industrial Site, Phase 1B Fire Suppression Water Storage Tank excavation. We have Mr. Kevin Dameron, who is and Tim Campoy. Kevin is with Palmer Engineering, native of Dorton, Kentucky. We won't hold that against him. And we have Mr. Tim Campoy here from Environmental Design Consultants. They're working together on this project, and I think it's important. Why don't you, all three of you, Sharon, you and Tim and Kevin, come up and give us an update on this project. And while you're coming up, I just want to talk briefly about this. You know, Pike County is, I'll get on my soapbox for a second. Pike County is at a turning point. In 1980, there was 81,000 people in the county, and right now, the estimate's 56,000. So we've lost 40+% of our population in the matter of 4 decades. Our school system is down to 7,400 kids. When I was in school in the 80s, somewhere around 20,000 plus kids. And the more people we lose, the harder it's going to be to provide government services, because you're going to have fewer people paying for it. People want to know why the power bills have gone up. One factor is you have fewer people paying power bills. And the way the PSC calculates rates, the fewer people you have, the higher the rate's going to be for those of us who stay here. The same thing's true with our solid waste system. If you go up a holler to pick garbage up and there's 25 customers this year, and there's 20 next year, you still have to drive the same number of miles, you still have to have the same kind of truck, the same number of employees. Mountain Water, another situation. The more customers they lose, the more the others are going to have to pick up the tab. And this industrial site was something that the prior court started. We got the deed for it after I came in office, and we've obtained about 2.6 million, roughly, Sharon, a little over 2.6 million.
That's for phase one.
In federal grant money. Congressman Rogers is fully supportive of this. And we've committed some state or some county, single county coal severance tax to it. And we're basically finishing up phase one, which is the water
Sewer.
and sewer. Then the next phase will be the road, the fiber, and what am I forgetting?
Natural gas.
Natural gas. Power.
Well, power's already funded too.
Well, we're going to do single phase power initially, correct?
No, we're doing phase
We're
three.
going to go ahead and put the three phases in.
That was AML grant.
Three-phase power.
From
Okay.
last year, yes.
So I'm going to ask you gentlemen just to introduce yourself briefly. I know both of you real well, but if you would, just for the public that may be watching this, to give us an update, and let's talk a little bit about the bids that came in.
I'm Tim Campoy with Environmental Design Consultants here in Pikeville.
And I'm Kevin Damron with Palmer Engineering Company.
All right, gentlemen, please proceed.
So a few years ago, Palmer Engineering was contracted to do an engineering evaluation of the site, and we came up with a proposal of estimated about $4.3 million of investment that would need to be made to make the site move-in ready. That included running water, sewer, and as Judge Jones said,
water, sewer, electricity, AT&T, Suddenlink, natural gas, and also some road work on site. And a couple years ago, we were awarded the contract to design the water and sewer into the site. We're teamed with EDC, which is a local company here in Pikeville, and we currently have work underway now for installing the water line. And one of the reasons that we're on the agenda tonight is that we've designed a water storage tank location, and we have to excavate in the mountain in order to have a bench for that to be located. And then the final phase of the contract that we currently have is to run the sewer into the site. We've taken bids recently on the excavation for the water storage tank, and those bids have come in higher than what we expected. But on the other hand, it seems like every day, all of the projects that we're doing, the bids are coming in higher than what was originally estimated. And Mr. Campoy has written a letter to the court on behalf of our team to to recommend the bid. And Tim, I'll let you comment on the.
Just briefly, I think it's fair to say that with inflation, with the fallout of the COVID pandemic, that everything is more expensive.
It is
Everything
definitely
from
more
diesel
expensive.
fuel to, truck parts, construction. Mr. Little was telling me that, just plywood that he used to build cabinets has gone from $80 a sheet to $200 a sheet. And, that's what we're seeing. And, of course, vendors that we ask to submit bids for construction, their cost to do business has gone up as well. And I think
And the other thing that we're seeing, Judge, is, of course, the availability of material is so much more difficult now. We're finding such a lag time for the pipes and all of the materials that are needed, especially when they're being ordered and brought into the area. So as a contractor, you're having to bid that time into the project, because it's not necessarily a job that you can start and finish in 6 months. You have to wait on the vendors to actually get the material to you.
That's the
Before I
situation.
let Tim talk about this, something I just want to bring, I think the public needs to understand this. When I talk about the fact that we've lost population, the one thing that we would have to keep people here are jobs. And when we came in the last court, there's not a county-owned industrial site. This is the first county-owned industrial site. Somebody said, well, what about Scott Fork? Well, that's not industrial site. It's not controlled field.
Right.
The county doesn't own that property. Before we even came in, part of that had been leased out. It's not big enough, and the cost to get commercial water and sewer there would be astronomical. Now, we've got a narrow window of opportunity to try to stop the population loss, I believe, because this is going to have a snowball effect. The more people we lose, the more it's going to cost to live here, the more people leave. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And I think those of us who are in business have seen this happening over the last few years. And, I keep saying that I hope my kids have an opportunity if they choose to stay here. But I use, my buddy Vince Ratliff back there. His kids grew up here. One's in Memphis, one's in Chicago. Reggie, 3 kids. One's here, one's in Boston, one's in Chicago. My buddy Chet Hodgson, same thing. We can look around this room and see people who have kids that have grown up here and they've had to move to find work. And that is, some people call it the brain drain. For us to be able to turn this county around and have a future here, we've got to create jobs. And this industrial site, in my opinion, is vitally important. And it's just like what Governor Beshear said when they built, Governor Patton is the one that acquired that site in Hardin County where the Blue Oval Battery Factory is. The state kept it. They took a lot of heat over it. But it's going to be the largest single investment in the history of Kentucky, almost $6 billion plant with 5,000 employees. We may build this site, we may put a building on it, and it may sit there for a while before we can get somebody in it. But one thing is sure, is just as sure as you're sitting there, if we don't have a site, there's nobody coming.
Right.
And before we can start marketing this, Reggie and I've had a heated discussion the other day because we didn't agree over this. I think you really have to wait till all your infrastructure's in before we can start marketing this. Reggie thinks we can start doing it now. We have I submitted a request. I got a phone call from Hal Rogers' office. Congressman Rogers and I have an extremely close working relationship. I think the world of him, and they called and wanted to know if we had any discretionary requests, and they had to have them. So I have submitted a request for discretionary funding to finish this site, and 2, to get some money to finish this trail system, because we have to develop tourism, but you also have to develop industry. You have to do that. And once we get this site done, Commissioner Adkins knows that we're going to get the site up at John Moore Branch. That's another control field site.
Right.
Then Reggie and I want to go up with Commissioner Adkins and look at the Jesse Branch site.
Right.
It's not control field. Then you've got the Wolf Pen site. And just so the people out there understand the history of this, when 119 was built, a lot of the refuse areas were not compacted where you could build on. Governor Patton called myself and some other legislators down. He said, I'm going to be leaving office, and it's up to you guys to make sure this road gets built, talking about US 460. But what you have to do is make sure that there are controlled field sites that can be used for industrial development, and that's what we did. So you're going to have Wolf Pen, Wolf Pit, John Moore Branch, and you've got Stone Coal, which is up, I call it Beaver Creek, but that'll be able to be used for residential development. And one of the things that Governor Beshear's talked about, and Reggie and I went over to the announcement in Knott County, where they're taking some donated strip mine property and trying to develop it to get some folks who live in the floodplain who have been repeatedly flooded up out of the floodplain. That's one thing that we've got the potential to do at Jesse Branch and on Stone Coal. So with that being said, Tim, I'm gonna let you give us an update on where these bids came in.
So on the 19th of January, we accepted bids per the advertisement. We received 4 bids for the excavation for this site for the water tank, and they range from a high of 1.3 million to a low of $210,738, which was a local contractor, H2O Construction. Based upon all the due diligence that we have done and that Sharon has done in tracking these things, even though it was over the budget, we believe at this point that if we were to reject bids and bid again, that we wouldn't get any better bid than what we have. And that in this market, that it's a fair bid.
So the worst case scenario, as I see it, and this is just me, and I'll throw this out and these guys can comment on it. How much was allocated in the initial engineering for this part of the project?
In the initial engineering, we only allocated $50,000 for this. Based at that time too, very early on, we didn't know how big of a site that we needed, because we didn't know the size of the tank yet that was going to be required. And so that was a number that we put out based upon certain information that we all had and understood from previous jobs, but then all that was done prior to.
We also based that estimate on assuming that you could blast that site too.
Yeah.
And their recommendation is not to blast it.
Right.
So even though this part of it's overbid, I don't think you're going to get. H2O was $60,000 less than the next lowest bidder. It's a local company.
Right.
I'm glad our money's staying here, because part of this did go out. A big part of it went to another contractor out of the county. I like seeing the money stay here at home, and we've got single county economic development money that we can use to patch this shortfall, and I think it's something that, we have to finish this.
Right.
And
this is the tank that will provide fire suppression.
And you can't build an industrial factory without fire suppression.
That's right.
All right. So is there a motion to award the bid for the fire suppression tank excavation to H2O Construction for the sum of $210,738?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blackburn. Is there a second?
Second.
That was a tie. I'll give it to Commissioner Scott. We have a motion by Commissioner Blackburn, second by Commissioner Scott. Any questions?
Judge, I just wanted to say that I've known Mr. Lockhart ever since he was a small fella. Me and his dad worked together for years, and he does really good work.
H2O is an asset to the community. They do good work. Jigsaw, 2 local companies were the 2 lowest bidders, and I like seeing that. So, we want to see our money stay here at home as much as we can. So, we have a motion by Commissioner Blackburn, a second by Commissioner Scott. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Gentlemen, good seeing you all.
Judge, by the way, I did some new stats, and Pike County has lost more population than any county in the state of Kentucky. That's the new. Jefferson County had the largest increase, Pike County has lost the most.
In what period?
That was this year that, I just did this like last week. This was from 2010 to 2020.
Would you put that up to, and give a copy of that to all the commissioners for me, and get a
Yeah,
copy of
sure.
that to,
I will look that up again, yes.
Mr. Sloan from the newspaper?
I was
He'd
using it
probably
for
like
one
to
of
see.
my grants, but they had lost the most population.
We have and I'll be happy to show this. I have a newspaper in my office that was from the Pike County Times, back the predecessor newspaper. I remember it when I was a kid. Gary remembers it, the Pike County Times. And in 1977, there was an article written based on a University of Louisville, I think it was their Department of Urban Planning, did a study. They predicted in 1977 that in 2020, Pike County's population will be 147,000 people. Now,
They lost.
we're at 56,000 based on the most recent census estimate that I saw. So the trajectory that they thought we were going to be on, our population is lower right now than at any time since 1930. That should scare everybody in this county. And that's why the things that we're working on here together, Republican, Democrat alike, we all understand that this is what is important to move this county forward so there's a future here. Because, I mean, you know, Commissioner Scott's got kids that have had to move to Tennessee. You know, I mean, it's something, you know, Commissioner Blackburn's daughters is working, I guess, she graduated from UK, didn't she? Or she's still down there?
Yeah, she's at Eastern now.
She's at EKU working and going to school. You know, but Commissioner Atkins and I've got young kids. And this time, you know,
We're still losing population.
we're still losing population. And I'm going to go back and say this, and I'm going to wrap it up. The more people you lose, the more it costs all of us to live here. And the more people you lose, it's going to snowball.
Judge, I'd like to say that I've got 9 grandbabies all total, but some of them does live in Tennessee. Some of them lives in Mount Sterling. But the biggest part of them still lives here in Pike County. We want to try to keep them here, you know, if we can. Yeah. Very critical, I think.
He's absolutely right. And I think we're going to have a good relationship because we all understand what's important to this county, and this is important. So I want to thank you all for your effort. Sharon, you've done a great job. And you brought a lot of money in grants. I don't think the public really gives you the thanks that you deserve. And I don't think they really understand what's happened here.
No,
She's brought millions and millions of dollars in grants here. But for Sharon, you wouldn't have a new senior citizen center in Pikeville. This project here, there's a lot of money been brought in, and we're still working to get this money every day. And I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, the next item is the second reading of a proposed ordinance amending the Pike County Administrative Code, Section 700. This is regarding the nepotism portion of the Ethics Code. I'd like to ask County Attorney Paul Howard if he would present the second reading of this amended ordinance.
Relative or family member of this section shall mean any person related by blood, marriage, or adoption who is a first cousin or closer relative to any elected member of the fiscal court or a person employed as a managerial or supervisory employee of the fiscal court. Prospective employee shall mean any person who has applied for employment with the Pike County Fiscal Court or who is eligible for rehiring at the beginning of the new term of the fiscal court. After the election date of this ordinance, a relative or family member of a member of the fiscal court or managerial or supervisory employee of the fiscal court is otherwise not disqualified for employment with the fiscal court if the following criteria are met. The prospective employee is qualified for the position the prospective employee has applied for. The prospective employee receives no preferential treatment in the hiring process. The relative or family member of the prospective employee does not participate in any way in the hiring process. The prospective employee is hired on the pay scale appropriate for the position under the administrative code, and the provision shall apply to rehiring of employees at the beginning of a term. If the prospective employee is hired after the hire date, the relative or family member in the elected office or managerial or supervisory role cannot participate in any employment decision related to the related employee, cannot participate or have any involvement in any disciplinary or personnel action related to the employee, and cannot be the direct supervisor or manager of the employee.
So we, thank you, sir. We have the second reading. This has been, I assume this has been properly advertised?
Yes.
All right, so this is ready for action. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment to Section 700 of the County Administrative Code relating to nepotism?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blackburn. I'll make a second. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. All right, I'm gonna pass over a couple things because we need to, before we address the topic of the evening, I'm gonna go ahead, Greg, let you come on up because we do need to do executive session and address a couple litigation-related things in
our January 6th court meeting, this fiscal court approved purchasing a Caterpillar 420XE backhoe. We had some discussion at that time that there was an additional backhoe needed. We did have 2 backhoes in our capital budget plan for this year, and this would be the second one. It is from Boyd Equipment. It is on our Kentucky Master Agreement. The Master Agreement gives us a 25% discount on that price. We also negotiated in an additional multi-machine discount.
Greg, I don't have any of this information in my packet. Unless I'm overlooking it. Oh, it's, okay, I see what you're talking about. The first thing I have is this pole pad thing.
Yeah.
Let's do that one first, because it's the first one in the packet.
I think this pole pad thing is what this court just approved a few minutes ago.
But what we approved a few minutes ago was to submit the grant application. What we probably need to do, though, is approve purchasing it.
This is the pole pads that our clerk discussed. They are $1,700 a piece, and we plan on purchasing 100 of them for a total of $170,000. It is reimbursable money through the state. There are a few little additional costs to this, and I've asked several questions and haven't got the right answers on. There is a Verizon Wireless data activation fee per election and a Verizon Wireless data activation fee yearly. That cost is $30 per unit or $3,000 per election, and $1,500 per unit or $15 per unit or $1,500 per election. There's also cases of rolls of paper that go with these that do a printout, and they are $125 for a case of 50 rolls. That would be above and beyond the $170,000 that's reimbursable. There will be an additional $4,625 upfront fee. Starting year 2, there's an annual software license of $130 per machine or $13,500 per year for more or less maintenance and software licensing for that equipment. That's the cost, the ongoing cost that the judge mentioned a minute ago.
So here's my question. This is on the state master agreement, correct?
Yes, sir.
So because it's on the state master agreement, we don't have to bid it. Because otherwise, if it weren't on the master agreement, it's over $30,000, we'd have to put this out for bid. My question is, how does that deal with the maintenance and warranty? Because that is over $30,000. Mr. Howard, do you know what that would do under the procurement code?
Well, if it's 13,500 a year, that's annually 13,500. It wouldn't be over the $30,000.
But you've got to look at the, but you've got the warranty when you add that to it.
There is an optional extended warranty, and to be honest, I haven't really been able to find out a whole lot about how that works, because you're paying $13,500 for a maintenance fee. I don't know if that is just to calibrate the machines per election or what.
Darrell, do you know?
We opted not to do that for optional equipment warranty. We opted not to do that 4,500 or that 7.
We shouldn't.
That wasn't what we voted on.
So Darrell, your actual expense right here then is $13,500 for 2 years each. So you're at $27,000 for the 2-year warranty period. Is that correct? So there is a 4th year. That would run it.
I think where it says year, that's what they're counting.
That would run it past 30,000, Greg.
Let me ask a question here. So if you look at line 6, 7, and 8, you've got year 2, year 3, you got the annual software license, annual fee. 4's not on there. You know what I think? Since the state's put this on the master agreement, and you really have to have the maintenance, and you have to have the annual software license and maintenance, because you can't use them without it. So I think we ought to go ahead and do that. And at least we can always come back and do year 4 later on. But it doesn't make sense not to have the software license and maintenance and the whatever the e-pulse fee is. But you know, if the state wants to tell us we did it wrong, we should tell them they should mandate it to us.
What they put out for the bid is what we end up with.
Again, this is. All right. So I don't have a total here. Let me see if I can state this motion. Is there a motion to purchase the 100 poll pads from No Inc. Innovative Election Solutions, St. Louis, Missouri, under the state master agreement for $174,625. That would include the 100 poll pads, the ePulse first-year connectivity fee, the Verizon Wireless data activation fee per election of $3,000, Verizon Wireless data activation fee yearly of $1,500, a Star Micronics receipt paper with 50 rolls for $125. And in addition, purchase the year 2, year 3 annual software license, MDM and maintenance for $13,500 per year, and the annual ePulse fee in year 2 and year 3 for $200 each. You're saying we don't need the optional warranty, is that correct? And let me ask you this, Darrell, if we're going to spend, so here's my question though, if we're going to spend somewhere over $200,000, 170 of that will be reimbursed by the state. But without the warranty, are we on the hook for it? If we have to replace them later on, or? I mean, I would just about rather pay for the optional warranty than have to come back and be out the money on, because this is new technology for us. We don't know if it works or not. Yeah, the warranty's $45 per pad, and then the hardware's $75. So what do you think? You're the clerk. You tell me what you want to do.
We marked that off.
All right. Okay. with the brains of the operation, ask a question here, Keith.
Darrell, did you determine that you had to open an Apple account for these iPads?
We did open that.
Okay, so that's already done. What kind of failure rate have you had with previous equipment with heart? No, with heart in general. With heart in general. I know this is new.
I mean, I haven't gone through an election.
What do y'all think about the warranty, Jim? Let the commissioners weigh in here. What do y'all think about the warranty?
Well, I think a warranty would be good, in case something, failed on them or if they didn't work one.
We're this far into it. What do you think, Commissioner Atkins?
Well, let's make it simple. Darrell, you want warranty or not? I mean, honestly, I'm all about warranty.
It's like buying a
It
lottery
saved me a
ticket. You may need
time
it,
or
you
two.
may, you
You're buying insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it with warranty. If it's okay with you.
okay, let's do this. Here's the motion. Is there a motion to purchase these poll pads with the activation fee, for a total of $174,625? Year 2 and year 3 annual software license, MDM and maintenance for $13,500. Annual e-pulse fee of $200, and then the warranty on the pads and hardware for the sum of $4,500 and $7,500. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Stop, hang on a second. And authorization for the county treasurer to issue a check for payment for the same. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Just for the record, the total is $213,625, and $170,000 will be reimbursed by the state. So we're not out a tremendous amount over and above that. But if they fail, the reason I would sort of be in for it is, if you have 2 or 3 of them tear up, then it does come back to us. So I just assume go ahead and, all right. Lisa, I signed that. You can get that too. All right. All right, please proceed, sir.
In addition to that, Judge, through my discussions with No Inc., they said if we wanted to split that up into several payments, we could. If we wanted to wait until we got the money back from the state
You and Frankie
to pay them,
you and
we
Frankie
could do that also.
You and Frankie can coordinate that with them. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Back to the Caterpillar 420 XE backhoe. January 6th meeting, we did purchase one. We had discussion that we needed an additional machine. We had 2 machines on our capital budget plan, and this would be the second one. It'd be the same pricing as the one we bought January 6th. The machine list price is $206,262.96. There is a 25% discount because it's on the Kentucky Master Agreement. That discount is $51,565.74. We did negotiate an additional multi-machine discount through them of additional $14,867.94. This machine, like the other, will also include a 48-month, 4,000-hour premium warranty. It would also include a 4-year, 4,000-hour service agreement, which they would come and do all the oil changes and service as required by the hours on the machine. The total price would be, for all this, would be $163,242.28.
So just to clarify this, do we have 1 or 2 backhoes in the capital budget?
This is the second one.
Okay.
We have 2.
So just for the public, when we came in, I think it's fair to say that the equipment we had to deal with 1,000 miles of county roads, a lot of it was junk.
Yeah, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but realistically, you will need to buy two more pretty soon. I mean, you know, if the maintenance garage was here, I mean, we're doing a lot of maintenance on the other backhoes. I mean, they're not gonna hold together a lot longer. We can make it another year with what we have, but we'll be back at the table wanting more.
Now, which lot will this backhoe go?
Well, this one here will be to replace the one that was flooded. You remember, we had one hoe that was flooded
at the Robinson Creek.
at the Robinson Creek Road lot, and this one will go to replace that one. But now we still have,
So which lot got the other new backhoe?
that went to Phelps. They went to Phelps, and they are tickled to death with the backhoe. The backhoe has proven out to be everything that it was said to be.
So right now, you need 2 new excavators.
I do.
2 new 6-wheel trucks with trailers.
And
We bought 4.
the trucks are very desperately needed.
And then, are we okay on pickups, or are we gonna need?
No, actually, right now, we're okay on the pickups, but the equipment's where we're lacking. It's like, the rubber tired, off from Marbone Road lot.
The rubber tire
That rubber tired excavator, it's been down for, a little over 3 weeks, right around 3 weeks. You know,
Just so, I try to do this so that people understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Exactly.
There's a method to this
right.
process. Rubber tire excavators were Hyundais, and they were bought in, you worked for the county, you were on the road department then.
I was, but no, actually, all those have been taken out of service, the Hondas. The only rubber tire we have now is the Cat, but they're owed.
So how old is that excavator?
Shoot, I don't know the age. I mean, I could go get the records.
Is
It would
worn
be,
out?
yes, and that is it. It's came to do it's done what it was put here to do. I mean, we've got our use out of it.
That's on Commissioner, that's
Hey,
on his
so
home.
we might ought to check too and see if Cat still offers that, because that rubber tire excavator's really good, ain't, for pulling ditches and stuff and not tearing up our blacktop. Maybe something to look at down the road.
As what now?
To replace that with a newer rubber tire, if Cat still offers that, because that does help about where you just went and blacktop a road.
I'm not, well, see, I've found that we don't tear them up with the John Deeres that we have right now, with those on Cats. We're not tearing up any blacktop with those.
I think what we found out is that the rubber tires, you're limited, and they're more.
That's my big thing, is it's the offset, is with the rubber tires, you're limited. You have to have a hard surface to work those on. You have to be on a road to work them. You can't get off-road. If you're off-road, I mean, it's almost,
So turning the metal track excavator on the road ain't turning it up.
find me a spot where we've done that.
Well, I mean, I'm just
saying
asking.
we don't do that. I mean, you could say, if you had an operator that sat and done that, yeah, but we don't have
That's what I was just
those.
asking, the fresh blacktop.
They're
Ceramic, hot metal track.
Oh, the rubber track, see, I was under.
No, ours are metal tracks. Ours are metal tracks.
But they've got.
The three that we have are metal tracks.
But they're not,
No, they have no coating on them. They have no rubber on the tracks.
it's not what I'm saying though, but they're,
Street pads,
yeah.
they are. Yeah, they are street pads. They're not,
Street pads.
they're not cleated. They're street pads.
We've not had any trouble. They've used them up even my hauler.
Yeah, and we've used it on the new asphalt. But honestly, now you're right though. I mean, you know, if you sit there and you're turning
Yeah.
you would tear it up. But you know, we've not had that issue.
That was just my concern, on fresh blacktop, the metal.
And you know, a
track.
lot of the argument was too is that with the rubber tires, you'll get them to the job faster, and that's not the case either. Is because you can jump that excavator up on a trailer and haul it faster than you could tram that. And then if we had the maintenance garage here, if you tram those rubber tires, then you're heating up those planetaries, which causes the seals to go bad. I mean, James could even come up here and attest to that. Those machines, even though they're rubber tired, they're not made to tram and to travel for long distances.
The biggest issue I have with them from a safety standpoint is if you're reaching way out with them, they're so top heavy that you have to be really careful that you don't turn one of them over.
They are. And it's just the flexibility of being, I mean, with the track machine, well, we had one right there up in your area there at Marbone. We had to get the track machine in there to get up on the hill, up on the slide to remove it, where the rubber tire was there, but we couldn't use it because the dirt just stayed, and we were going back every day. We actually had to get up on there to pull that dirt off the hill. And that's where it is. It's just the versatility and being able to do so much more with the track machine than you can with the rubber tire.
they've been able, in my experience, to be able to use the John Deeres that we bought to pull the ditches with no problems.
We have.
Some of the employees were complaining, well, it was easier to use. Well, if you're a proficient operator, you should be able to use the excavators that we have to pull them.
Yeah, and we do have great operators. I mean, we have some really good operators, and they're doing a good job. And just, to what the judge said, is we've not had a problem or complaint on any of the ditch lines that we've pulled with the track machines versus the rubber tire. And like I said, it's just a versatility, because if you need to get that, if you need to get up on the hill, you can. Whereas with the rubber tire, you're just limited of what you can do with them. And that was my whole thing about having the tracks, because I retired from that, and I always tried to get them to go to the track machine then, is just because of the versatility and being able to do so much more with them. I'm even digging footers for a bridge.
The Hyundais were in such bad shape. They were having to get parts from South Korea, and it was just, we were throwing good money after bad.
Stayed down 6 months at one point. We stayed down 6 months trying to get one O-ring. The O-ring cost like $13, but we were down 6 months trying to get the O-ring in. And you couldn't get it from anywhere else because it was size they had an odd size for every part they had.
Well, I'm going to ask, since this is in the budget, this is not something that's not pulled out of thin air, is there a motion? And this is from Boyd Equipment, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Is it on it's on the master agreement? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we saved about 60, almost over 65,000 between the negotiated discount and the master agreement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion to purchase the 420 Caterpillar backhoe from Boyd Equipment with 48-month, 4,000-hour premier warranty, travel time and mileage, and the CVA 4,000-hour in-shop service agreement for $163,242.28, and authorization for the treasurer to issue payment for the same?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins? Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Akers, are y'all still selling the rubber-tired? Versatility-wise, you would agree, I assume, that the rubber tire probably doesn't let you get in the same places that the track machine would get you? All right. All right, anything else, Greg?
That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, what is this? I wanted to, before we, all right, thank you, Greg. Next thing is the Pike County Road Supervisor's Report. And I just wanted to give a big congratulations to Mr. Fabian Little. He has been elected to the Executive Committee for the Kentucky Association of County Engineers and Road Supervisors. Mr. Little has been elected by his peers to represent Eastern Kentucky on the Executive Committee of the Kentucky Association of County Engineers and Road Supervisors. And it's comprised of 7 members statewide from 120 counties. He will hold that office for 2 years. And I think it's important that the road supervisors and the county road engineers have a voice, because you're the ones that are charged with handling. We've got 1,000+ miles of county roads, and I want to congratulate you for being chosen by your peers for that important committee. And on March 15th, the business meeting for the Kentucky Association of County Engineers and Road Supervisors will take place here in Pike County.
It will, and I think that's the first, well, it is the first since we have been here. In the 4 years, they've never had one here in Pike.
I'm not sure that anybody from Pike County's ever served on that, but
I'm not for sure, but I do take that as a big honor, and it's just what you said, is because this can be a really good thing as the more people we get involved in it too, the more road supervisors. It's a communication thing that we can communicate with each other. I mean, what Clark County's doing for something on their roads, we're not doing here, and it's just a way to communicate. And it is really a good organization.
so the members of the committee are Nick Stallings from Henderson County representing Western Kentucky, Daniel Minatray from Boone County representing West Central, Alan Curtis from Clark County, who was kind enough to come up here and help us with flood recovery, along with County Attorney Willie Elkins, who's a Dorton High School graduate as well. Were kind enough to come up here and help us. You represent Eastern Kentucky, the eastern part of the state. You have Rob Franksman from Boone County, and you have two representatives from the Transportation Cabinet. Is that correct?
It is.
Megan Martin and also Martha Horseman from the Transportation Cabinet. So I think it's important to have that relationship between the county road engineers and the Transportation Cabinet, because we are dependent on them for help.
We are.
And I just want to congratulate you. I think it speaks volumes about what you've done here, because you've been selected by your peers to be on this executive committee to represent Eastern Kentucky. I just want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
All right, next item is the Pike County Road Department work orders. That is in the packet. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about the completed work orders or the scheduled work orders?
Only thing I've got, do you have a list of what's been surveyed by FEMA, what they're gonna do for us?
Well, now that is still ongoing. They have started giving us the dates of when, because FEMA has not came in yet to actually do their site inspections. Okay. That is coming up, and we will be, we'll be getting that out. Actually, to the foreman here shortly as we get them. I think we did give out 3, but there were none in your area yet.
Okay, there was a lady who called me from Long Fork and was asking me, was FEMA going to do this, going to that, and I told her I'd find out.
And honestly, is we won't know until they do these site inspections, and so far that's not begun yet, but it is coming shortly.
I was just looking for an answer to give,
right,
people when they ask me. So,
and since you're talking about that, I would just like to say is we do have a group in right now called Guardian Retention Systems, and they are putting in poly bags on Kelly Mountain for us. And I didn't receive this information until after 3 o'clock today, but they had some problems up on Kelly Mountain with people that was really upset because they were holding up traffic. But see, especially this first run that they're putting in, it's so far over the hill, they have to have a pump truck up there to pump the concrete down so far to fill their bags up. And people were really irate and upset, and they were so upset that Guardian knocked off part of the day and left. They will go back tomorrow, but now, from my understanding, Sheriff Scott will send 2 deputies up there with them tomorrow. And I think it's, us as county workers and also the Guardian, they're trying to improve that road. They're trying to make that road safer and improve it for the people.
If you don't fix it, they complain, and when you fix it, they complain.
Yeah, but this one, then look, this is hearsay. I heard about this late, but from my understanding, this went a little bit further than just complaining, and that shouldn't have happened.
Were threats made to any of them?
I think there was. That was my understanding. There was some threats made. Nothing happened, but there were threats made, and they took it serious enough that they stopped work early because of it.
Well, there's no room for that.
No, there's not.
Our employees have worked tirelessly to get these roads open back up. $20 million in damage. You all worked, 7 days a week for how long?
Over a month. It was over a month.
without a day off.
Yeah.
And our employees don't, that's not going to be tolerated.
Yeah.
So would you keep me posted on that?
I will. I absolutely will. But I just thought I would want to mention that there is just be patient with these guys. I mean, they truly are out there trying to help. They're not there to just be in your way. But along with helping and fixing, there will be a little bit of a holdup, for a while. But if you'll let them work, they will be gone and out of your way, and you'll have a good road.
They repaired repaired an embankment failure on my creek. There's times I sit for 15 or 20 minutes waiting. But at least my kids are driving on a safer road now.
Yeah. And then too, Kelly Mountain is a narrow road anyway. I mean, it's one of the most, it's curvy. I mean, you've been on it, Bub, Mr. Akins. I mean, it's straight up and down, it's curvy.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful area.
It is.
But that road you and I have looked at some problems on Kelly Mountain.
We have.
Over there that are going to be extremely expensive. And what I would just tell people and I've had some calls about what FEMA's doing. Frankie, since I became judge in 2019, we closed out some, 2013 or 14 FEMA?
2014.
We closed, yeah, I mean, we've not seen, and the public needs to understand this, we've not received one penny of money from FEMA for the flood in July. Is that right, Frankie?
State is all.
We got 1.4 million from the state, but we've probably been out 5 or 6 million that we've paid out of the county treasury. I can tell you that Perry County had to borrow $6 million. We've not had to borrow any money because we had the county in decent financial shape. But we don't know. I mean, FEMA, it might be a year before we know what they're going to do. And
Been over a year on the last year, and the project's not.
have we got any money back on that storm yet?
A couple of small projects have needed work, but
And just from our offices, we're just now starting to send in to ask for reimbursement from the July on some of the, what would you call it, like the debris removal, you know what I'm talking, I don't know if they call that Cat B or whatever they call that, emergency work. We're just now starting to file and send in to get reimbursed for some of that work.
I mean, some of this stuff will be ongoing.
No, it will be.
At the end of this administration, in 4 years, it'll still be some other pending.
Yeah.
But Commissioner,
And
Commissioner Atkins, we'll try to get a list for all of you as soon as we can.
as soon as I get it, I will get it to you.
Okay.
And it will have dates on it. Like I said, I know none of those were in your area. They were in Mr. Scott's and Mr. Blackburn's areas where they're going to go first. But I think that's not even going to start until next month.
But I tell you what would be helpful, if you all have got places that you think might be eligible, if you'll take some pictures with your county phones,
Those
get an address.
That time's already elapsed.
We
already passed that time. There's no new sites now.
So we can't submit anything else?
Not any new sites, only what they have.
But what we could do, though, is if you send him the pictures and the address, he could look to see if that's on the list.
Now, that is true. That is 100% true.
She was really nice. She wasn't complaining. She was just wondering if,
Do you know,
I've got it wrote down at
Okay.
home. I just didn't think, I'll text it to you tonight or
Yeah.
tomorrow or something.
yeah, and then I'll get you an answer. And I'll even get you a date. Like I said, as we get these, we'll just get them out to you of when these will be, because that is the information you need to know. That way you'll know when they're coming out to do these site inspections.
I've got just a couple quick things. How are we on salt right now? We've not used much this year, but
We're not, we've actually only ordered one round, but they will be to replenish what we've used. So we're good on salt.
all of our snow removal equipment working right now, all the
It
plows,
is.
chains, and everything.
Let's hope that we've seen all the snow we're going to see for this year. We can always hope that.
If I don't see any more snow ever, I'm good.
And I'm happy myself.
I got a question. How many six-wheel trucks do you need? Is that something we need to work on too?
Well, there's two to be replaced, but honestly, he said need, I mean, where he said need, our needs are greater than two.
Well, how many, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We need to get to
Yeah.
working on it because they're
Our
about a
needs
year
are
out.
greater than two because
We need
it's,
to try to,
I mean,
It's-
if you are game for it, if you all are good with that, we'll get Greg to
So I can give you an example, off from Mr. Scott's, area there. So their new truck, the housing was busted in it, the rear end housing. So it's at Martin's having that fixed. Well then, so the truck, the other six-wheeler, yesterday, the axle was busted in it. So now that lot is only down to just the Mack. That's all they've got to run with right now, so.
We can get Greg, have you looked at specking out any six wheels or trying to place an order for them? I mean, and again, do I want to spend the money? Not really, but you can't work on roads without trucks.
We do have two more six-wheel trucks in our capital budget for this year. When we bought the four, a year and a half ago or so, I just actually happened up on them. I looked, weekly through the different places that handle them all over the country, trying to find new trucks, and I just happened up on those four. We're kind of to a point now that we're just going to have to spec one out and order it and wait on it, and it's, it may be 8-10 months before we ever see them.
I'll make a motion to give you permission to go ahead and either put them out for bid or to see if you can order them through the state master agreement. Would there be a second on that?
I'll second it, yeah.
Because they are in the budget and we need them, because you can't get the 10-wheel Max up some of these haulers. And we use the 6 wheels to pull the small excavators and the trailer. It's not practical to do that you can't do that with the 10-wheel Max.
Not get them up where they need to go.
No,
You're correct.
So we got a motion second. Any questions on that? Any discussion? Donald, what do you think?
What did you have in mind when you was gonna look for some trucks like Greg?
I mean, we look all over country. We bought these last one through Rush Equipment in Nashville, Tennessee. We look at the big commercial truck dealers all over the country. There's just not, since COVID hit, it seems like there's just not equipment out there. We've had difficulty even finding pickup trucks. I mean, everything we get ready to buy, we're 8-10 months out trying to order it. I just happened to run up on those 4 trucks in Nashville last year, and we jumped on them and bought them. Wish they'd had some more like that, because that's kind of the truck that we were looking for, wasn't it, Fabian?
Probably could have got a 5th one, but, it wasn't budgeted, and, I was pretty adamant. I mean, you can't spend money you don't have. And if you don't stick to the budget, you might as well not have a budget.
Right.
So to our budget, is there a particular, why don't you see what you can find, and then, Ronald is the truck guy. He's run a lot of trucks for a long time. You get with him, figure out what he might be interested in. I'd like to try to standardize the fleet so you don't have, we tried to do that with pickup trucks and couldn't do it because you couldn't get enough of the Fords. Why don't you do that? We got a motion. We need a roll call, right? So let's call the roll, Madam Clerk, on this, putting these out for bid or on the master agreement.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
I'll get to work on that.
Thank you, sir.
But anything I can do to help you with that, I'll be more than glad to help.
Okay, thank you. We bought, of course, the solid waste. We bought a lot of Peterbilt trucks and those 14-yard trucks, and then we happened up on these 4 dump trucks, and they were the Peterbilt, and they were spec'd out like we wanted. We jumped on those trucks. I don't know if you want me to try to, if I can't find anything setting, which I doubt I will, just go ahead and spec out and order a couple more of the Peterbilt trucks like we have, if that's what Fabian and the court's interested in.
Get with Fabian and Commissioner Scott and Reggie and figure out what they need. I'm the last guy you want specking out a truck.
But if you do use the Peterbilt, you have got a dealer over there.
And they have proven out so far to be,
Yeah, you got
Good
some
trucks.
bad way to work on them, yeah.
yeah.
They're close.
And I have to say this, is they've been good to work on them also. The few that we've had to take to them.
Is that through Martin's Peterbilt?
It is. And the few we've taken to them, they've been, real fast to get on them and get them back to us.
That works. I do want to bring something up while you're here. Greg, I think we're finished with it.
Thank you.
There's something that needs to be talked about, and it's not on the agenda. We've got a problem in the road department. I think Commissioner Atkins is aware of this. We've got our 6 road foremen one in each district, that is responsible for supervising each of the road lots, and they answer to the road supervisor. But there's something that's not equitable about the way this has been set up. And, you know, when we came in county government 4 years ago, same thing you guys probably found out, there's a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense, but there's, you know, laws we have to comply with, there's court decisions. But when your supervisors are salaried employees, and we have a situation right now because we work so many hours of overtime, and we tried to eliminate overtime, but we've had so many floods, you just can't been able to do that. You know, 4 floods in 17 months, probably what, Frankie, between the 4 storms, how much you count in road damage and infrastructure? 35 million probably?
The latest numbers on July flood yet, so.
So we're, you know, roughly $32 million in damage. We've had a lot of overtime. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of that back from FEMA. Only 3 of the 4 storms qualified for federal assistance. So the problem though is we have equipment operators and truck drivers, because their overtime, are making more than our road supervisors.
And we do.
And I mean, it's to the point where it's not fair that the supervisors, most of whom have more experience, than the people who are working there, are making less money. They're working the same number of hours with more responsibility and more experience in a lot of cases, but less money.
And I was my special crew foreman through this flood. He put in every hour I put in. He stayed out on the road every hour I did.
So what I want to do is, with your all's permission, with your all's agreement to this, is let's sit down, and I'm going to ask Reggie, the personnel supervisor's not here, and you can help with this too. I would make a motion that we look and see what our hourly workers are making and compare that to what the foremen are making. And let's come up with a proposal before the next court meeting on what we could do. Now, we can't do bonuses under the Kentucky Constitution. Bonuses for county, for public workers, it's illegal. Nobody wants to go to jail by doing that. But what we need to do is, rather than trying to get into this change in a pay scale, and it's not the same problem with solid waste, because, you know, the solid waste supervisors are on the same pay scale as your road department supervisors, but the road department supervisors are working, you know, a lot more hours. You rarely see your solid waste workers out. Is that a fair statement, Chuck? You're not working on Saturdays and Sundays. We try to have them off the road at a reasonable hour, particularly before dark. That's not always the case. If a tree falls, if you've got a flood, you're out after dark, you're out, you know, like I said, you worked 4 solid weeks in a row. I want to come up with a proposal to adjust the salary schedule for our road department supervisors, to give them their 4 A's, some have longevity, to be, if we could, I don't know if we have to change the administrative code to do this, and that's something Mr. Harrod may have to look at, but a 4A plus a certain amount of money in addition to their 4A and their longevity, what that dollar amount needs to be on the base. So a base of 4A plus 5,000, or a base of 4A plus 3,000, whatever that is. But it's not fair that the supervisors are working the same number of hours with more responsibility than the people that work under them, and they're making less money.
Yeah.
No.
Does that make any sense?
Well, they're working for free every time they come out, pretty much, you know, right now too. To the extent, you know what I'm saying, they put their time in, then they come out, let's, you know, salary people, that's part of salary. Really, they're not getting no more compensated than the equipment operator that's sitting beside them making hourly rate. I see what you're saying,
I mean,
yeah.
and I can tell you, I mean, and Fabian will tell you, you know, I've run snowplows. We've been shorthanded. We've had people off COVID. There's a couple nights I went out at night, and it's dangerous. I mean, you're out on slick roads, or you're out, running equipment, trying to clear, flood debris out of a bridge so it'll drain. We've had 2 road department employees killed on the job in, not, the last 25, 30 years?
Yeah, about 25.
One 4 years ago. And, it's a dangerous job. And, like what we had happen today with people, threatening people who are trying to fix these roads. I mean, it's the world we live in, but I think we do need to do something for our road foreman.
Well, I know you will absolutely, I mean, that will go a long way. I mean, just the recognition, knowing that there is a problem.
So if I could get Frankie to do this for me, or whoever we need to, get me the last year's W-2s for the total compensation for all 6 of our road foremen and their heavy equipment operators, which will be the highest paid employees.
It would be, yeah.
I want to compare that to the heavy equipment operators, the light equipment operators, and truck drivers on each of the lots. If you could break that down for me by lot, it'll give us an idea of how much of a disparity there is. But I think, I may be wrong about this, but I'm just going to I would hazard to say that there will be situations where some of those employees are making more than the foreman.
No, it will happen, especially on my special crew. With the guys, like I said, I know have put in a lot of hours.
I want the numbers for the special crew too, Frankie.
Yeah, because that's where you're gonna find your biggest disparity at.
And I'm gonna look at those, and with your all's agreement with that, I'll give you a proposal, and then I'll throw it out to you, and you all can have your input on it, and you can tell me what you all think, or if you all got an idea, or you wanna change it. Ron, what do you think about it?
I don't know, I'd probably have to think about it. I think that really and truthfully, I think everybody's making pretty good money, and I don't think we can afford to throw none away. Everybody got different feelings about things, you know what I mean, but I don't see it. Those, might get out of line here, because you've got some of your road foremen that's retired, hard and back, they can't make better than anybody. I'm not saying all of them.
No, you're right.
You gotta look at all points of view of it. You give them another chance, they have to make it pretty good,
Thing is, if whatever we do, we gotta treat them all the same under the law, because,
I thought you a hint the other day, what would,
because, Commissioner Atkins was mentioned giving some of them take-home vehicles back. I'm against that for a lot of reasons, because of the cost and because of the public perception. Most people don't, but what he's talking about is trying to deal with some of the inequities where the bosses make less than the workers.
well, that's what I'm saying, you give them that truck, if they're caught out 4 times that night without a truck right now, they're spending gas to get there and not getting no extra compensation to go out to work. Just saying in a roundabout way, but that's what I throwed out there.
I'll give you a proposal, and you all can decide what you want to do with it. If you don't want to do anything with it, then
Well, I'm all about taking care of our employees to help everybody, every one of them, from the highest paid to the lowest paid, so.
I
give us a proposal.
just don't, my personal gripe with it is the supervisors have a lot of responsibility. If they're making less than the guys working for them, that, in my opinion, needs to be looked at.
Well, where you will find it at will be on that special crew.
And I've got a lot of respect for Commissioner Scott.
I do too.
He's run a business. He knows how to manage money. He's been good at it. And I've been real tight. Most people would tell you I've been pretty tight about the county's finances. We've had to make a lot of hard decisions to be able to replace equipment and things like that. But I'll let y'all, I'll give you a proposal. If you don't, that's up to you all what you do with it. But that's something Commissioner Atkins brought up to me, and I sort of agreed with him on it. Me and Bubby don't always agree, but.
No, but we can get along and disagree, can't we?
Yeah, you can buy me lunch this week one day.
That'll work.
I have to kid around with him a little bit, but no, he's right about this. It's something I agreed with him on, and I think it's something that Fabian has talked to me about for some time, because it's causing some, if the morale of the workforce is impacted, and we have had trouble keeping employees, and
We have. Well, that's what started this to start with, is because we were losing so many drivers because of,
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to change the nepotism. We have so much trouble hiring employees. If you've got somebody that's qualified, they shouldn't be excluded just because they got somebody who works for the county if they're qualified for the job and they don't get any special preference.
exactly.
All righty. Thank you, sir. All right. Did we vote on that yet or not? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the completed work orders and open work orders list?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
I'm very sorry, but I do have a road that they have got to be
Taken, excluded from the county road system. It's Compton Road off from Collie Hills. It goes right-handed, and I'd talked to Mr. Atkins about it, and I think I'd even mentioned it to you, but I wanted to mention to the court that we'll get the clerk to get this started to take this road out of the road system.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's something else we need to just briefly talk about. This is crazy. The only thing that we can find in terms of a resolution on the county road system is some language that's in the county administrative code. We need a freestanding ordinance on county roads. And let me tell you why. The current ordinance is illegal, in my opinion, and I'm going to just be very blunt about this. The current ordinance that's been on the books for a long time says that basically for a road to be a county road, it has to have 2 or more homes. I don't remember if it says owned by separate property owners.
It doesn't.
But there is an attorney general's opinion, and those are the people that put people in jail, that says that a road that only serves 1 or 2 homes cannot be a county road.
And should be removed.
And I gave a copy of that opinion, I think, to most of you all before you took office. If you didn't, I've got a copy of it in my briefcase. That opinion was requested by Harlan County Judge Executive Dan Mosley because there's a lot of questions about what's a county road. But there was no hesitation. They said if it's only got 1 or 2 homes, it doesn't serve a public purpose. But there's some other state statutes that talk about what you have to have a county road. One is it has to meet the county's construction standards before it can be taken in. So we need to define what those construction standards are. I mean, there's a reason for that. If you've got 2 people that live across the creek and their bridge is falling in, it shouldn't be the taxpayer's responsibility to take that in and build them a new bridge when they can turn right around and petition to have it taken out.
Exactly.
And it would be illegal to do that. And Fabian has had to tell a lot of people that we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the statute is very clear. If you've got a bridge or a road that's not up to the county's construction standards, it can't be taken into the road system. You can't take in a cemetery road unless that road is deeded to the county. You can't work a cemetery road unless it's deeded to the county. There's a whole bunch of statutes about what you can and can't do. We've been contacted by a company that develops Dollar Generals or some of those kind of stores. And they're wanting to build one and put some other potential businesses in over in a part of the county. But there's a bridge there that the ordinance doesn't make any allowance for us to be able to take a road in for economic development purposes.
Exactly.
So if there's a road that if we could take it in that would help put 2 or 3 or 4 businesses there, I don't have an idea about how many jobs or how many businesses that needs to be, but that's something that we need to look at because if taking a road in helps you get some businesses located in that area, it makes sense to do that as bad as we need jobs. I think we need to pull some county road ordinances, and I think Colonel Downey's done that, Not sure when he's gonna be back, but we need to work on this pretty quickly because, this company is wanting to try to develop this piece of property, and that means tax revenue, it means jobs. But right now, the county's road ordinance does not allow us to take a road in for economic development purposes, and that makes no sense to me. So,
No, I agree. And the road that you're referring to is actually, this has been going on for 2 years now. I've been talking to them, about this, and it would only help the county out too if we did
But
do this.
you've got roads right now that are only serving one home that are still in the county road system. And those roads need to be taken out because, in my opinion, it's illegal to work.
Yep.
Because, that's a private driveway. We can't work private roads or private driveways. We don't have the money to take care of the roads we have now that are public roads. But we need a clarified ordinance on what it takes to be a county road. We've talked about a bridge this week up on Long Fork. It's off a state road to one house, and it's in the county road system. So,
It shouldn't be, but
it shouldn't be, but it is. So, can you get with Roy as soon as he gets back, and let's get something put together?
I absolutely will. I mean, if you wanted me to, I can get with, if it's gonna be a while, I can get with Mr. Howard and get something started anyway, if he has time.
But we need before the next court meeting, I really would, before the next court meeting, if we could get, or even if it's 2 court meetings, if we
Just
could
get you a draft.
a draft.
Yes.
And you can work with the county attorney, you can get me and Reggie a copy, get the commissioners a copy.
Yes.
But it needs to be tailored around the statutes.
Mhm.
And
We can
not
do that.
just, because what we have right now is woefully inadequate and probably illegal.
Yeah, we can do that, and we'll get something by the next court meeting. I'll get you a draft anyway. It may not be
It would
exactly.
help. Look at some of the counties, check with Clark County. Let's take a look at theirs, because we know that, you've got access to those guys that
I
you
do.
work with through Casers. So let's see if we get their ordinances and take a look at them.
Okay.
I don't care to help put it, I'll help, I don't care to help Mr. Howard put it together, but we just need to have an ordinance that makes some sense, that complies with the law.
And it is time.
It's time that we do that. All right. I think we need to take a break. I think everybody over here is probably need to take a break right now. We're going to go ahead and do executive session. We don't have a lot of business to do in executive session, but we can couple that with a quick restroom break. So it would be, I would ask Mr. Howard if he would come up and instruct the court and the public on the relevant provisions of the Kentucky Open Meeting Law as it pertains to the entry into executive session for purposes of discussing litigation and specific personnel matters.
According to KRS 61.810, the court is permitted to go into executive session under paragraph C to discuss proposed or pending litigation, and paragraph F to discuss specific personnel matters.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Was it Commissioner Blackburn? Motion. Second by Commissioner Atkins. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we'll be in recess for about 10 minutes. We'll return to call the chair. I'm going to, is there a motion to adjourn from executive session?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins, or who's it? Commissioner
Second.
Blackburn. Commissioner Atkins, motion by Commissioner Atkins.
Yep.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. We're going to go ahead and do treasurer's business before we get into this 911 stuff. Mr. Stacy, please proceed.
Authorize checks for lodging registration expenses for any employee who needs to attend the 2023 Solar and Storage Summit, February 13th at the Capitol Plaza in Frankfurt.
Is there a motion to authorize checks for the conference as stated by the treasurer?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Blackburn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Atkins. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Yes.
Authorize checks for lodging registration expenses for any employee who needs to attend the Solid Waste Coordinator Orientation and Training, February 13th at the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection Training Center in Frankfurt.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
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 Authorize checks for lodging, registration, and expenses for any employee who needs to attend the Kentucky Division of Solid Waste State Grants Training, March 1st, at the Kentucky Division for Environmental Protection Training Center in Frankfort.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yeah.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize checks for lodging, registration, and expenses for any employee who needs to attend the solid waste landfill operator/manager training, March 14th through the 16th at the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection Training Center in Frankfort.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Blackburn. Second by
Second.
Commissioner Scott. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Yes. Is there,
Last thing I have is to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's monthly financial statement ending January 31st, 2023.
is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial statement for ending January 31st, 2023?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Blackburn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Atkins. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Blackburn?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Any other business, sir?
No, sir. That's all I have.
All right, let's talk about the 911 fee. We beat this horse. We have looked at what a lot of other counties are doing. My understanding that Martin County, most counties, from what we can find, and our PVA helped find some of the ordinances for us. Most counties have found that it's impossible to fund 911 because people are just having their landlines unhooked. I don't have a landline. Commissioner Atkins don't. Commissioner Blackburn, you got a landline? You got one, don't you, Commissioner Scott? Landline? Yeah, so he's got two. Half of us have landlines, half of us don't. I've asked Doug Tackett, who was here, was emergency management director, first 911 coordinator. Doug, can you come up, you and CJ, and give us just a little bit of history? One issue that we did just briefly before they're on the way up is this issue about voice over IP. Maybe one company, Gearhart, that's collecting that fee for us, but it's not, we don't know if there's any other companies that are maybe a couple customers here and there from other companies. But it's not a significant number.
No, and that one we just found out recently, so the rest of them are all been regular landlines come in. I spoke to Coalfield's telephone. They're not collecting it on their voice over IP, that they're in the process of, Coalfield. Coalfield's.
Coalfield's is not collecting it.
No, they're not collecting on voice over IP, and they're in the process of switching off the copper lines and switching everybody over to voice over IP. They're doing a grant. They got a project going down Brushy here. We just done the mapping stuff for them here about 2 weeks ago.
I'm gonna ask Doug. Doug, just introduce yourself. Give us the history of what happened with 911. What was, and I'd like to know what it was like before.
Before 911? Well, before 911, it's most of your fire departments had to have their own phones in, and they would have extension phones off the main phone in homes or other businesses where somebody would be there to answer the phone if there was a fire call. In the beginning, we didn't have radios. We didn't have pagers. And they had a call down tree. Whoever took the first call would call a number of people, and then each of those people would make so many phone calls until they got everybody called. And that took a long time to get calls out. Now, the fire departments kept those phone lines for a long time up until basic 911 came in, when it was set up in the sheriff's office. And they put in radios to do paging and help the fire departments get pagers. Some of them already had pagers and some of them didn't. But they did try to help them get some pagers and get some communications going. And then you could have a basic call would come in, and it would tell you what exchange that call came from, whether it be Pikeville, South Williamson, Virgie, Elkhorn City, or Phelps, or Freeburn. And that's the only way you knew where the call was coming from. You had to page out the appropriate fire department.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
One time, you sort of helped start the Shelby Valley Volunteer Fire Department.
Yes, in '78.
And I remember when I was a little boy, you started something called REACT, which was a way to get ECB radios for
Right.
help. And then when the fire department started, then you took over and started Shelby Valley Ambulance Service, ran the ambulance service for a long time. If somebody needed an ambulance, they had to know the ambulance service number.
Yes, they need to know who served their area and know that number. And what we used to do was hand out stickers with the fire department's number and our number and the state police and sheriff and rescue squad, because that time you had Pike County Rescue Squad, the only squad in the county.
And you had to know the number for the ambulance service, a separate
Yes.
number for the state police, a separate
Yes.
number for the sheriff, a separate
Yes.
number for the fire departments, rescue squad.
And with that, you needed to know which fire department or ambulance service served your area or your home.
So, for instance, if I was driving through Millard and I had a wreck, I would have to know which ambulance service Millard and know that phone number.
Yes, and the fire department too.
Or if you had somebody trapped in a car and you're traveling through Shelby Valley, you would have to know whether that was the Shelby Valley Fire Department or the
Shelby
Norton
Creek
Fire
Rescue
Department or the Shelby Creek Rescue Squad. You'd have to know their number.
Yeah. And you can be close to the boundary of any of those departments and not know which department you're in.
And what was it like when you started, running the ambulance service, or when you were the chief at Shelby Valley Fire Department before you had radios, before you had 911? How hard was it even to get a hold of volunteers?
It was hard to get a hold of volunteers. I mean, you had to use the telephones mostly, and there were no cell phones back then, so you had landline phones that you had to try to call people on. We had CBs, and we didn't have very much success with those because they didn't have that much range on them. And until we got some radios in later years, it was hard to get volunteers out and get them moving.
You and CJ have worked together for a long time in the emergency management 911. Now, if somebody just needs to know one number.
Right, 911.
I know
911 takes care of all the other stuff for you.
they taught my kids that number in preschool.
Right.
Now, when they started 911, the sheriff's office did it for a while, but then you all voted to move it, the court voted to move it to the state police.
Yes, it went to the state police in '96 when we went enhanced, after we got all the addressing and mapping initially done in the county. And we moved it down there.
And I think this is important. People don't realize that 911 does all the mapping.
Yes.
All the addresses.
Right.
So even the addresses, if you order something off Amazon or somebody sends you a package by UPS,
You've got to have that address. Even if 911 were to stop, which hopefully, and that's not going to happen, but if it does, you're still going to have the addresses, because you've got to have the address to get utilities.
So I said utilities won't hook up without the addresses.
So, I just think people don't realize that the 911 fee is not just pick the phone up and call.
Right.
And I think I just want to talk about, make sure I understand this. So, all your radio system for your volunteer fire departments are basically maintained and provided by 911.
Yes, all of them.
Sheriff's Department radios are maintained and provided by 911.
Yes.
Your EMS ambulances, I see Nee Jackson back here. He's chief of fire department at Belford. All your EMS, your ambulance phone number or radios come through Air 911.
Yes.
And
including Coal Run PD and Elkhorn City PD.
Coal Run PD and Elkhorn PD, their radio system.
Yes. Well, I take care of those also.
And
yeah, and
come on up, Nee. I think this is important, because I'm really a little bit concerned that we have people in this county that think that we don't need 911, and there are a significant number of those that think we don't need 911.
I bet if you go out and ask people who serves their area, a lot of them wouldn't have an idea.
And so, Nee, you brought something up that Commissioner Atkins brought up. So you, as chief of the fire department, you all fly people out from accidents, right?
Yes, sir.
and people who have maybe heart attacks.
Burns, they flew one out from Elkhorn that was involved in a real bad burn.
Say that again, CJ.
The Elkhorn City Fire Department had to fly one out here not too long ago that was, had real bad third-degree burns over most of his body.
I've not been in EMS. You three have for years. Got the chief of the Marbone Fire Department on the court. He said something to me. I didn't know this. When we had the recent gas explosion up at Belfry, or at Beefide, I was up there that day. I think I rode up with you, didn't I, Nee? I rode up with the Air Emergency Management Director. There was 2 helicopters landed while we were there to airlift those victims. And I didn't know this till Commissioner Atkins told me. Unless they have a radio communication between the pilot and somebody on the ground, they will not land.
No.
They will not
It's
land.
it's a safety factor, and they say they will not land unless somebody's there to watch them.
So these people who want to do away with don't want to pay a 911 fee and just say do away with it, if they ever have to have a family member airlifted, that ain't gonna happen because there's nobody to talk to them.
Right.
No, they don't even land over at the hospital, on the hospital, without having a ground contact.
So the other thing 911 does, besides the GIS mapping and addressing every house in the county and every business, it pays for the power and the maintenance and construction of all the radio towers and all the repeaters that your sheriff, fire, and EMS all use.
Yes.
This weekend, we had a fatal accident, a pedestrian accident here in town.
Yes.
You were called out on the weekend to fly the
Accident scene for reconstruction, yes.
You were called down there to fly the drone.
Mhm.
That drone is paid for by 911.
Yes.
Last year or so, we had a 3-year-old little boy that got lost down in McGoffin County.
Yes.
Spent 2 or 3 nights out in the cold weather.
Yes, I was down there on that one.
You were called down there to fly the drone.
Yes.
That drone was used when we had the train derailment up here.
Yes. And according to the federal people, the NTSB and the Federal Railroad, that drone, just the drone flights I did for them, said it took 2 days off their investigation.
But that's all through the 911 program.
Yes.
So, Doug, when you all started, we had a little bit of issues with some of the numbers, but when you started, I looked at the ordinance that was passed in 1995.
Uh-huh.
That ordinance was passed by the court that set the rate on landlines. How many landlines did the county have at that time?
Just a shade over 25,000.
And we're down to what now?
So just shade over 11.
So you've lost over half of the landlines. Is that number continuing to go down?
Every year.
So, Doug, I don't know if you know this, the state police increased their cost to the county, the dispatch, from $281,000 to $400,000.
No, 274.
What was it?
274.
274 to 461. Is that right?
463.
463.
It actually started out at 513 and got it negotiated down to 463.
So we're at 463. So it went up almost $200,000.
Right.
And we've got to make a decision on whether, the first thing we got to decide is, do we want, as a county, to have 911 service?
I think it's a no-brainer.
Well,
To me, anyway, it
I agree
is.
with you, but there's some folks out there
Well-
that don't share that opinion.
Well, in the beginning, we had people that didn't want to pay for the 911 because they said they'd never use it. But it turned out after it was started, they did use it, and they were thankful to have it.
My dad had a heart attack in August of 2013, and 911 was who was called to get him from Phelps to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to call 911 for my family.
I have too, for my father and my stepmother.
But I don't have a landline at my house. I've got it in my law office. I don't pay 911 because it's not, I don't have a landline. Yet Commissioner don't have a landline. He's not paying it either.
Yeah, Dad had had his taken out, and we use cell phones.
So it's really not fair for the people who have landlines to shoulder the entire burden.
No, it's not.
And the thing about it is, without 911, you lose the golden hour with most, whether it's heart attack, stroke, a trauma situation.
Well,
If you,
not,
if you drive, if you're just calling for an ambulance, somebody at stopover, if you have to go through a call tree to get a hold of somebody, and then the time they drive over there and drive back, it's over.
yeah.
They're dead.
What you don't
you spent
realize,
20, 30
People
minutes
are
just
going to
calling.
die if you don't have 911.
with
period.
911, you get pre-arrival help over the phone for heart attacks, for breathing problems, for burns, cuts, whatever. They can tell you over the phone while you're waiting on an ambulance or a fire department what to do for somebody.
I've seen on
They can talk you
television,
through CPR. I mean, that's what they're trained to do.
They teach,
They
they'll tell
teach,
people how to
they
do
teach
CPR.
people, they
They've
walk
delivered
people
babies
through
over the
We're all
phone.
CPR.
over each other now, let's
Yeah, I
not.
know, they've delivered babies over the phone.
Let-
Well,
say this.
one other thing, real quick. If you're driving through an area and you're not familiar with it, and you run upon an accident, and there's not 911 available, who you gonna call? How are you gonna get help?
And see, what people don't realize is they can tell where you're at.
Exactly,
By the GPS in your phone,
By the
when you
GPS
dial
on your
911.
exactly.
Even if you don't know where you're at.
Yes.
That's right.
Or if you're in a wreck and you can't,
Talk.
semi-conscious, if you dial 911,
Yeah.
it'll trigger help coming, even if you can't talk.
Yeah, if you've got
I've
something
used
like
GPS.
OnStar.
I've used GPS out of people dial 911 on their phones to find several people that's been lost, stranded in vehicles, during storms, during just normal every day, because they took a wrong turn somewhere and got lost, and they called 911, and we used the mapping data from the GPS on their phone in conjunction with the mapping data that we generate, and have drove to I don't know how many people.
I talked to Lori today and at animal shelter, had to call her and give her a couple complaints, and I asked her if people were talking to her about this, and she said, Lori, what was it? Somebody said that they told you they didn't think tax money ought to be used for 911? Well, my question is, if you don't use tax money for 911, where's it come from? I mean, we're gonna have to get it from Ronald McDonald, to put it wrong. I mean, where do people think this money comes from? It's the same place that the money for state police come from.
Well, I think deep down, most people want it. There's a low percentage of people that don't, or don't understand what it is.
One thing I heard back from some folks in Phelps, and this is something that Commissioner Atkins, this is something that I've talked to all three of you about. We've got a problem in the Phelps community, particularly about getting ambulances to them.
Yeah.
And Elkhorn.
And Elkhorn,
Yeah.
Elkhorn's a lot closer than Phelps is.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's a bad situation there as well.
Just what?
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday or day before yesterday?
Yesterday, they had,
And
Yeah, we had a fatality at Elkhorn, and at the same time had another call at Fedge Creek, and then, what was the other one? There was a third one.
there was one at Biggs.
Biggs. Fedge Creek, Biggs, and Elkhorn, and they literally ran out of ambulances trying to send them all.
One was coming from Harlan County, one was coming from Floyd County.
And one
And
went-
they,
and
and they
one
were
went from
trying to
Belfry.
get AFR from Belfry.
so let me ask you a question. Between the three of you and Commissioner Atkins, you all have years and years and years of experience. We've got Tim Fields back here that was a Floyd County, before we hired him away, was Floyd County's emergency management director. You got Reggie Hickman that's got years of experience. Reggie was one of the first EMTs ever, when they first started training EMTs. Worked in emergency medical services. What can we do? And I'm gonna talk about this as part of 911, because people felt, say, well, why should we pay it? We call 911, we can't get an ambulance. Now, I understand that. Because if my dad had had a heart attack over there now, as opposed to 2013, when Sid Lester got him to the hospital and saved his life, that may not have been the same story.
I mean,
They get their fire department, and the fire department in some cases can call a helicopter if it's a medical
Yes.
emergency, and they do that over there.
Had a real good friend of mine's son last fall was hurt in a football game at Phelps, and they airlifted him.
Yeah.
there's a lot of scene flights from Phelps because of location.
They've done.
That at Belfry or at Coal Run or other places in the county, Johns Creek, wherever it may not be scene flight criteria, but because of the location, they have to fly a lot more people, and it saves lives.
So I just want to get, and I hope that the public watches this, and I hope the newspaper talks about it. Last election, got to do something to improve ambulance services. Well, first of all, the county doesn't regulate ambulances.
No, the state does that.
Just like we don't regulate internet service. We have no authority to do that. Reggie and I have met with Appalachian First Response, and we've met with Lifeguard. More than once. We met with BB&T, or now the Truist Foundation. We got to help them get $100 and some thousand grant for Big Sandy Community Technical College to start an EMT program. Dr. Zilka that was has left now. I'm not sure what even the status of that program is. The new president's never reached out to us to even discuss that.
The only one I know of going on right now, the hospital's sponsoring one.
Yes.
Right now, it's been taught over Pikeville Fire Department.
The problem is with the hospitals doing them, the hospitals hiring a lot of them, hospitals hiring paramedics, and, there's a shortage.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that's, and Doug knows what I'm talking about here. I had a real good friend of mine that died, and, it took a while to get a helicopter there.
Yeah.
Well, you got bad weather, helicopters can't fly also. That's the problem with that.
Well, I mean, if you're at Phelps and you need to get to the hospital and it's solid IFR, you're not going to be landing at the football field at Phelps.
No.
I mean,
Well,
you can't get there.
they won't even launch. I mean, before they do a launch, they do a pre-launch checklist, which includes weather, not only just weather here's another thing about helicopter flights that people don't understand. When they check the weather here may be beautiful, but the weather where they're flying to,
and it may be,
Or where they're flying from.
they've got 3 spots they check weather. It's where they're leaving from, where they're picking the patient up, and where they're going to.
Look, y'all know I fly.
Yeah.
There's times I've come home from Frankfurt and not been able to get to Pike and be able to be perfectly clear at 12 miles away at Big Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get within sight of the airport and there's a line of thunderstorms between you. You can't fly in every day.
Flying's
So
not the fix
what we've got to figure out, and I'd like for you 3 and Reggie to get together, and let's see if we can set another meeting up. Commissioner Atkins, I'd like for him to be there. We've got to do something. They need an ambulance stationed in Phelps. Reggie, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what happened with Station.
The Kemper?
Kemper. Not actually heard back from that, but the court voted for, and we did I think, did some work there at the volunteer fire department.
Yes, they actually made one bay. That was when it was a DHP ambulance service. After it sold out to TransStar, it stayed there for a little while, and I'm not exactly sure why it left, but Lifeguard's never been there ever since Lifeguard bought out.
I think it's a staffing thing for
The
them.
deal, and I think Doug was in on
Yeah.
this, the deal was that they would try to go back into the volunteer fire department building.
Yeah, they were working with,
Lifeguard would go in there. I actually have not got a report
I
back
think-
on that, and I don't know what happened.
I think the fire department was ready for them if they had a truck they could put up
I
there.
talked to Chief Hunt
Yes.
about it. We worked with them. We made arrangements to get an ambulance there, but I'm not sure they can staff it.
That's the problem.
When I talked to Bill Baker over Lifeguard, which is their head guy for this area for Lifeguard, his biggest problem is, he said, staffing. He said, we've got the trucks. He said, we don't have the people to put in the trucks.
Is it the
And
problem of not being able to staff them or not turning down the transports to take emergencies?
Well, they've actually got trucks sitting there they don't have people for. They're down to running skeleton crews. Mainly, it's several different things, everything from pay to, like you said, the hospitals are snatching them up. We had one of our members that used to work for Lifeguard at Coal Run. She used to work for Lifeguard. She moved to Scott County, went to work for an ambulance service down there, got her paramedic while she was there. When she got her paramedic, UK hired her. And now she lives in Minnesota and is a flight medic in Minnesota. So there's where your ambulance crews are going. The hospitals are snatching them up just as quick as they can get them trained, because they're offering better pay and better benefits.
Well, and here's another problem that we figured out. The cost to get a paramedic certificate is about the same as getting an RN's license.
Yeah,
Yes.
about the same amount of time.
And the pay is about double or triple for RNs
Being RN,
what
yeah.
a paramedic makes.
I know several medics that are going to RN school.
So here's what I would like to do. The two of you, Reggie and Doug, Commissioner Atkins, I'd like to ask you all, as part of this whole 911 situation, is to convene a meeting, and I want somebody to reach out to K-Beams, Kentucky Board of Emergency Medical Services, and I'd like to get a letter or a resolution. I'd like a resolution drafted, the fiscal court, asking K-Beams to intervene to help fix this situation, because somebody's going to die You know, the golden hour is, if you have to
Hits
send
up
an
when you call 911. Golden hour's up the minute you call.
Yeah.
the golden hour before you can get an ambulance from here to Stopover or here to Freeburn.
Well, it's an
It
hour
is
one way.
fast.
Yeah.
It's an hour one way.
It's an hour one way,
As hard as you can go.
Yeah.
as far as you can go. And this is not an issue that's not been addressed by the last court, that this court's going to address too. But, you know, we can't train them, paramedics and EMTs. We can't hire them. We can't dispatch them. At one time, Reggie Hickman tried to get, back years ago, the fiscal court to start an ambulance service when they had all that coal severance money, when you still had the population to support it. They missed the opportunity 30 or 40 years ago to start an ambulance service. Should have been done. I think we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if the county had its own ambulance service. It's worked well in the city. Obviously, it's a lot smaller. You don't have as much area to cover. But we're going to have to do something about this, and it's something that needs to be addressed immediately. And, you know, I wish I had the power to hit my gavel and say, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. Or I could say, yeah, I make a motion and these guys could vote on something that would get this fixed. But, you know, we're going to have to work with the ambulance services. We're going to have to work with K-beams. And, you know, it's a bad situation. But, Doug, what happens if we don't have 911?
People die.
Lee, what happens if we don't have 911?
People die.
People
DJ?
die. People die.
Question is it worth 10, 12, 15 cents a day?
How can you put a price on somebody's life? How can you put a price on your family's life?
Well, it's worth a lot more than 10 or 15 cents a day for me.
Yes,
to
it
know
is.
If something happens to my child, I can pick the phone up and call.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you've got these people out there that want to just get everything for free. Nothing's free.
That's right.
Somebody's paying for it somewhere.
And Jeff Vanderbeck made the point in the newspaper that if we don't have 911 service, you can kiss Pike County. Any hope of ever getting jobs or businesses.
You won't have any economic
development.
development. When you were in Frankfurt, that's something you and I talked about a lot, is if you don't have fire, EMS, and police services, you're not going to attract businesses because they're not going to bring their employees here if you can't offer basic services.
And I think all of you would say, when I was in Frankfurt, I did everything I could to make sure the fire departments had what they needed.
Yes.
Make sure that Doug had what he needed in emergency management, whether it was equipment or rain gauges for the stream so we could detect floods before they happened. You know, Pike County's got the best emergency management group in Kentucky. And, you know, Doug even came back and helped me during the last flood because people care. But this is a real easy decision for me, but unfortunately, you've got people out there that don't want to pay a penny for it and that would just as soon shut it down, just like the same people that didn't want to pay a garbage bill that would just as soon throw it in the creek.
Right.
Well, I'm not willing to risk my family's lives for a few cents. And I'm not willing to risk the future of this county. Can you imagine what kind of message that would send to the rest of the country to say that we're not going to have 911 in Pike County?
Right.
And the money's got to come from somewhere.
Yes.
You say something like that, you think the population's went down now. You say something like that, the population will go way down.
Yeah, I mean, try to get a business in here when you don't have 911 service.
They're not going to come.
They're never coming.
Nope.
And, you know, you shut it down, and then what you're going to hear is, oh, I can't believe we did this. We don't have it. My dad died, or my wife died, or my child was hurt. I couldn't get an ambulance to them. This is a no-brainer. I can't believe, I'm going to be blunt. I grew up here. I was born here. I can't believe that there's people that would have the audacity to even think that you should shut down 911.
Right. I agree with you.
Anybody that would say that, you have to question what's going through their mind. And I'm going to throw it out here to you guys.
Yep.
I'm all for doing something. Most counties put it on the property taxes. Kenton, Boone, and Campbell County are all in the $70 to $75 a year. Martin County, the judge executive, I think, told me they were around $75.
Yeah, $75 a year.
And we talk about $60 over here, and you think we would, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. And we've gone back to the drawing board. We'll have to leave the landline fee on until we see where the revenue comes in and what this does. But here's what I'm going to tell the public. We don't have enough money to pay the state police to dispatch for the first quarter. It's $115,000 bill. We don't have the money to pay it.
Nope.
The fiscal court will have to cover the bill until this money comes back in.
Yes.
We start getting money in. Because I'm not going to let them shut down 911. Are you all in favor of making sure we don't shut it down and making sure that we cover the state police bill?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we can do without it.
But here's the thing, the county can't subsidize this long-term. We don't have the money.
No, and they don't, and they shouldn't have to.
And it's just like the garbage bill. We shouldn't have to spend coal severance tax, economic development money to keep a garbage system running because people don't want to pay a bill, or politicians that line their pockets didn't want to pay it. So, if you vote on doing something tonight, it won't be on till the next year's tax bill.
Correct.
So we're going to be in a hole before that money ever starts coming in.
And the thing about it is, the longer it's put off, the harder it's going to be to get it ready to be even put on.
We're
the
already
next.
pushing the wire, and I don't think we'll be able to get it all ready by the first set of tax bill go out this fall. At this point, we can get most of it, but there's going to be some stuff where we got to go through so much. I don't think we can get it all done.
Tonight, I think what we ought to do is talk about the residential and the dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
But before the next court meeting, I'd like a proposal of what we're going to do on retail and industrial. I think your big box stores like Walmart, we looked at like Campbell County, it was $2,600 a year or something like that. They can afford to pay that. There's a lot of calls come from those stores, and we need to make sure that the bigger businesses are paying their fair share. Y'all think that will be a better proposal to give us a proposal on what we need to do for businesses? I don't care to pay more through my law firm. I don't care to do that because it's important. We had a client at the office here a couple years ago that had a significant medical emergency there in the office. We picked the phone and called 911. So nobody, when something happens, you don't have time to look for the yellow pages.
No, you don't.
No, yeah.
People used to call the operator, and we've had operators call us for ambulance, wanting to know if we cover this area, and then, no, you need to call somebody else.
Well, I mean, if you get an operator, even get an operator.
That's right. I don't think they have operators anymore.
I don't either.
So,
I don't think so.
But
is there a motion to put a 911 fee on residential and rental dwelling habitable homes or structures to support Pike County 911?
Motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Atkins. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
That be recognized.
You got 3 minutes.
Hey. Hello, everybody. Judge, you sat here and made a good point on some of the stuff I was going to hit on. Guys, the new commissioners, I welcome you. Hopefully you'll be more receptive to the public's concerns. Now, when we let's get to the funding, because as Mr. Tackett said, I think we all know we're not going to go without 911, and it is a big advantage, and that is where I think that it should be something that the court would provide for us. We don't get much, and when you talk funding, when you talk at least, there's so many unanswered questions. Who sets the rates? who is oversight over the board, and so on. But I would like to suggest that you'd consider, like this shortfall, to be took out of severance, coal severance tax, as economic development, which we've heard right here. The judge made a good point on that. And yes, it's been used for sheriff's automobiles, vehicles, to build a fire station and so on. But I do believe that is something that this court and every homeowner, be it a senior citizen, a disabled person, or a working person. So I would hope that y'all would take that in consideration, and if you just fund it to where you could work on down the road to get some of this information in and throw some figures out there to the public. And even go on in the future to see what it would cost to do this in-house. I want to thank you for the time, and Judge, I'm not here to insult nobody. And I would be glad to, discuss this if anybody would like to.
All right, your comments are noted. Thank you. All right, those questions have all been answered repeatedly on prior court meetings. And simple fact of the matter is, what do you do when there's no more coal severance? We were almost no coal severance 2 years ago. And again, that's not the role of coal severance, is to run day-to-day government operations. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Is there a motion to set the residential and rental property tax rate, or the rental or residential 911 fee on habitable dwellings for the 911 system? Is there a proposal or a motion to set a specific rate?
Yeah, did we discuss, I'll make the motion, but have we discussed the amount?
We need to set an amount. So, I mean, there's been, we've talked about $5 at one point. We asked to go back. I will make the motion to set the rate at $4 a month. I just think that that's a reasonable rate. We've talked about $3.50. We've talked about $5. The more I think about it, if you've got Martin County with all the problems they've had paying $75, I can't see the $48 48 divided by 365 is 13 cents a day. Is it worth 13 cents a day? If something happens to your family, you can pick the phone up and call 911. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
I love my family enough to come up with 13 cents a day. I'll make the motion for $4. Is there a second?
Second.
We talked about lower rates. Ron, can you live with $4?
I'd like to think it a little bit lower, but guess we can go with it.
I don't think if you lowered it to $3.50 a month, that lowers it about a penny a day.
Not a whole lot.
I mean, you can't convince me that 13 cents a day is going to break anybody. If you're in that bad a shape, then you call us and we'll work on trying to come up with a waiver program. I mean, seriously, I mean, if it's that bad. We got a motion and a second to set it $4 a month on residential. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. And you gentlemen can come up with a proposed commercial rate schedule. If you'll go on Campbell or Kenton County, I can't remember, Campbell, Kenton, or Boone, they've got a schedule for their businesses on there.
We've looked it up. There's several that's got them.
I mean, most of them do. But, if we set it at $48 a year, we're going to be $27 below Martin County.
Yeah.
And most of your counties are somewhere in that $5, $6, $7 a month.
Yeah.
So this money is, obviously, nobody wants to raise something on somebody, but how do you sacrifice 911 service? Is there anybody here thinks we need to do away with 911? If you do, I'll give you the microphone up here. All righty.
But I want us to go through with that meeting with the ambulance service. I'm going to work for the people of this county, try to get better, because
Well,
you all admit
talked
there's a
about that the other
problem.
day.
Yeah, y'all admit there's a problem. Everybody knows there's a problem. We gotta try to figure out something to better the people, you know. We put this fee on there.
I think me and you hit on some, I talked to you the other day, me and you did, and I think me and you hit on some stuff that we might be able to pull off and do.
Yeah, I mean,
But here's the thing, it's not just Pike County you got ambulance problems with.
oh, I know,
It's
but we
everywhere.
gotta try to improve it a little bit for the people, you know.
Well, we need to improve it a lot. If there was a way
Yeah.
we could do a public ambulance service, I'd be all for it. But
Yeah.
I don't know how you could ever, with no coal severance tax to speak of.
It'd be tough. It'd be really expensive.
Everything's tough, but it's not impossible.
Right.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
they ain't nobody in this county knows no better than I do about starting on the bottom, working up. I was one of the youngest fire chiefs in the county at the time, and I've never had it easy, you know. It's always been a battle.
All right. Now that we got that taken care of, the next court meeting, you'll have us a proposal for the corporations?
Yes.
All right. Now, for instance, the mine operations, you know, it's important for them. I mean, your bigger
Bigger companies, and it's tax write-offs for bigger companies too, ain't it?
your bigger companies can afford to pay it, you know. And we need to make sure that we can keep it running, and we don't have to come back in a year or two and ask for more money, okay? Now, a couple things that we didn't do. I've got some personnel motions I need to make. It is my motion to acknowledge the resignation of Gavin Branham effective January 7, 2023, to acknowledge the resignation of Jared Ratliff effective January 21, 2023, and to change Kristen Adams' pay rate from a 3H and title change to Animal Control Officer effective February 6, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Atkins. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. The next item is we have Mr. Atkins. Gentlemen, thank you all. Doug, thanks for coming down. I wanted to hear some of the history of this from the person that helped start 911. And I want to, again, thank you for everything you did. I didn't get a chance to thank you for what you did coming in, helping me in Air Emergency Management Office. We've got a great group with Nee and CJ and Tim, and
Yes, you
it's good
have.
knowing that you're available too. So I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, just call me anytime.
And I hope retirement is treating you well.
It is. Thank you.
All right. Next item is Jerry Atkins from the Trails Committee has presented us a proposed permit application and liability waiver. And also the fee structure. The waiver has been signed off on by Assistant County Attorney, is that correct? And is it in compliance with the, well, all right. So we have here the two documents that were given out a few minutes ago. It's not on the agenda, but we need to go ahead and get this done. Is there a motion to approve the Hillbilly Trails user permit application liability waiver and the permit fee schedule?
Motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. All right. Anything from the purchasing office? Anything from social or community services? Anything from the commissioner's office? Anything from the animal shelter? Anything from emergency management, GIS, 911? Paul, Mr. Williamson, I got a question for you. What's going on with their ball field repairs from the flood damage like Long Fork Park? I've had some calls about that one. the dugout over at Hardy Park. Any progress on those? Can you come up for a second?
We've got Hardy Park turned into their insurance. Justin called, he's supposed to call them one day this week, and I haven't heard nothing back at. Long Fork, me and Reggie's going up to look at it. I believe we take inmates and get it fixed back up now so they can play.
Me and Reggie. We need to get that started pretty quick.
Okay. Because it's set up for FEMA. FEMA is involved in it, but we can put the fence back up and do some work on the infield and get.
The lighted field, I've had some folks that are concerned because they'll be starting baseball up here, not too long.
Right.
If we could get on that pretty quick, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah,
Trying to
we'll-
get those fields up at Long Fork redone.
Right, we'll get that and we'll go ahead and get started on the fence and
You could get with everybody, Jason Fields and Brian Morris over at the jail and see what we can get set up on the a schedule to get these ball fields in order with the inmate work release crew. I'd appreciate that.
Okay, sure will.
We need to do that sooner rather than later.
Okay.
All right. And have they started working on any of our community centers yet?
Not yet, no. We've been behind on some of this other stuff. We've had some water damage from the cold spell, water, busted lines at the Shelby Valley Rescue and Belcher Road lot. So we're just about ready to get started on these community centers. So,
I appreciate everything.
thank you.
All right. Y'all have any questions for Mr. Williamson on any of this stuff? No. All righty. Pam, she's hiding back there. Ms. Fanover, anything from finance? Chuck and Stephanie, anything from solid waste? Thank you. Jerry, anything from the trail office? Go ahead. Introduce yourself so people know who we're talking to here.
Jerry Adkins, Director of Trail Development, Hillbilly Trails, Pike County Fiscal Court. I'd like to thank you and the court for passing the documents that you did tonight. The trail system is moving forward very well right now. We'll have phase 1 of the Hillbilly Trail system open late spring, no later than early summer. We'd like to have it a little sooner, but we're not going to push things. We're not going to open it until it's right. The trails are rated and marked to where people can have a safe and enjoyable ride. What's key that you all helped us on tonight is we're very close to going live with our website, and those documents have to go on there. Our Air Trail Advisory Board created those rules, or the fees that you voted on. I worked diligently on the liability waiver. I did most of that myself, and the assistant county attorney reviewed it, and he said it was spot on, it was good. Getting his website up and going will answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. We've had our Facebook page since October 2020, but basically, cut this short, I know it's late, I want to give a big pat on the back and thank you to our Trail Advisory Board members. Some of these guys have been on there since mid-year of 2020, and they're volunteers, they're not paid a dime. There's countless hours went into those fees that you voted on tonight. They've been looked at, changed, tweaked with, but we think that we're very fair to all. There's 4 entities on there. We've got Pike County residents, Kentucky residents, which is the other 119 counties, out-of-state residents, and a youth fee. So the trail system is moving forward. We're close to opening. It's going to be good for the county. It's going to be good for entrepreneurs in the county to open up business. There's a lot of opportunity for business. Several businesses have already opened. Repair shops, part shops. We have campgrounds and cabins going in. I was talking to PVA tonight. It come across his desk today that one man has bought 3 pieces of property on Turkey Creek in the South Williamson area for the sole purpose of doing campground and cabins. So the trail system will be beneficial for tourism, the county of Pike County, the county itself, and the citizens.
Jerry, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Mr. Little, anything? Ms. Hall, anything from Grant office? And you got the request into the Congressman's Rogers' office for discretionary funding for the, you don't ask, you don't get it, right? All right, thank you. Mr. Howard, anything from County Attorney's Office? All right, anything from the Treasurer, Clerk? All right, Judge Hickman,
No, sir.
long day?
Long day.
Long day. They're all long here. All right, Commissioners, Commissioner Scott, anything, sir?
I don't have nothing, Judge.
Commissioner Blackburn? We'll say it's good seeing Commissioner Blackburn. He's getting over some knee surgery, but he's doing better. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
He called, and he's one of the first people called and checked on me when I had neck surgery a couple weeks ago, and it was much appreciated. Commissioner Atkins, anything, sir?
Only thing, Judge, I seen where Ellis Wayne Coleman, Bub, used to be a deputy. He's in pretty critical condition in UK. His brother had posted. I'd like for everybody to keep him in their prayers.
I hate to hear that. I went
They
to high school.
flew him out. I believe what Grady posted yesterday to UK for maybe an aneurysm.
I grew up with Bub.
Bub's a great guy, you know, and I'd like for everybody to keep his family and him in their prayers, because
Thank you.
Pretty sick guy. That's all, Judge.
I just want to conclude by saying we lost a distinguished resident in the Virgie community, a distinguished former educator this week. Virgil Osborne was a man that I had tremendous respect for, both as a educator, one of the outstanding coaches. I think Reggie had said earlier that it was sort of his role model. He was an outstanding coach. He did so much for the youth of the county. In his later years, he was always coming to Frankfort. Very active in the Kentucky Retired Teachers Association, the Pike County Retired Teachers Association, was a fierce advocate for public education and for teachers. And Virgil was a good friend. He was always giving me a hard time, though. He never cut me any slack. And but if you knew Virgil, that was Virgil. And I want to extend my condolences to his sons Joy and Shane. I grew up with Shane, and Joy and his wife Beverly are great friends of mine. And it's a huge, huge loss for the community. And I just ask everyone to remember that family in their prayers. And there'll never be anybody like Virgil again. And he did a lot for the county. He was close friends with former Judge Executive Wayne Rutherford. I think he even worked for the fiscal court for a period of time on Judge Rutherford's staff. And again, Virgil was a good friend, and it's a big loss. So I wanted to say that, and I was somewhat shocked to hear that he had passed away, and certainly want to keep Ellis Coleman in the prayers as well. So. With that being said, is there any other business to come before the court tonight?
I'd like to say something, Judge.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak on Diane Thacker's husband, Ronnie. Me and Ronnie was friends for probably 40 years, you know what I mean? I want everybody to think about how Diane, I hope she does good, you know what I mean? I really care a lot about her, yeah.
Well, Diane's been a close friend of mine since I think I met Diane when I first got out of law school, and I love Diane and Ronnie and the family, and they've been great friends. And I know Diane's been through a lot. We love you, Diane, and our condolences. All right. With that being said, I'd like to ask Nee Jackson if he would come up and say the benediction, and then we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Shall we bow for prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you now, Lord, thanking you so much for this another day of life that you've given us. Lord, we thank you so much for your son, Jesus, who died on that cross and shed blood that each and every one of us could have eternal life. Lord, I am so thankful for the country that we live in, the county that we live in, Lord, that we would all keep our focus upon you, dear Lord, and and put God first in everything that we say and do. Lord, I pray that you continue to bless this court, dear Lord, and the citizens of this county, dear Lord. Lord, I ask that you be with those who have lost loved ones, Lord, that you give them a special touch as only you can, and comfort them in the days ahead. Lord, I just ask as we depart, Lord, that you give us traveling mercies in your precious and holy name, and amen.
Amen. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Blackburn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott? Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.